Welcome to the Queer Love Podcast, the silly and serious shenanigans of two queer relationship coaches. I am your host, Elizabeth Cunningham.
And I'm your host, Lee Greeps.
On this podcast, we talk about how to live your best queer life with fulfilling, healthy relationships and anything else that makes your little queer heart happy. Because living your life outside of the heteronormative scripts is totally possible for you.
Each episode, we explore all things queer love from our professional perspective as relationship coaches, our own personal experiences, and as partners.
If you love our show, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter at Queer Love Relationships. You can also check out our website, www.queerloverelationships.com.
Thanks for following us and enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Queer Love Podcast.
Woo, 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 woo.
How's everybody doing today? How you feeling? How's it hanging? Chilling? Not chilling? How are you feeling?
I was waiting for the responses from the people. Give them all these questions.
It's true. Didn't mean to overwhelm anybody.
I think they are overwhelmed.
Oh no. Well, I apologize. I apologize for being overwhelming.
You're not being overwhelming. The amount of questions perhaps were overwhelming.
I apologize for the amount of questions, which may or may not have been overwhelming.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Just not trying to feed those parts in you that think you're overwhelming.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Language, everybody.
It matters. It does matter. All right, what are we talking about today?
How to make decisions in times of uncertainty. Question mark.
Nailed it. What do you think? Well, first of all, like, if someone is feeling like uncertain, let's paint the picture. If you're feeling uncertain in your relationships or just within yourself, or there's a decision to make that maybe because there is a decision to make, then you feel uncertain.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's like there's a lot of stuff happening, so you feel uncertain, and then a decision is presented to you,
mm-hmm.
or something you need to make a decision about is presented to you. And it's not that the thing itself is unclear, it's just that there's a lot happening, so even just making a decision feels, overwhelming.
Right.
Yeah. Any other things that they might be experiencing being in uncertainty and making a decision?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it in the sense of like, if there's just so much going on, that like, just things feel uncertain. Like it's just movement, washing around.
Yeah.
With that kind of lack of grounding, stability, solidness.
Yeah.
It's understandable to feel uncertain about making decisions because you're like, literally nothing feels certain. So like it feels kind of weird to make a decision, or it's like, well, if I make this decision, but then that will create some other change, and like, can I take on that other aspect of uncertainty? I don't know, actually. And so it's like, even if you're clear on the decision you want to make, it kind of brings in other aspects where you're like, I don't know about that, like the consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's, I just kind of, that's where I was kind of thinking about it.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, I think a lot of people can relate to that right now. There's a lot of uncertainty happening in the world in general, and depending on where you live in that, then that can, add to that.
Mm-hmm.
Also just being queer in the world, but definitely in the US right now, there can be a lot of uncertainty, and then that impacts your relationships, and especially in queer relationships right now. There's lots of different reasons to feel uncertain or to feel not even just uncertain, but kind of just like upended a little bit. Yeah. What's
Like
the word you
uprooted.
use? Uprooted, scattered. What was you're like swirls.
Like washed around.
Washed around. Yeah. That feels accurate. Washed around.
Yeah, and those like, because it's like, if it's happening even just external of your relationship, it's like that's influencing your relationship because it's influencing you, and or it could be like, no, it's just happening everywhere. It's all getting influenced, right? Like it's like, no, there's other aspects outside of what's happening in the world that are uncertain in my relationship or work or what have you. And so it's, even that, it's like, I think it's also interesting because it's like uncertainty will also bring up things that you didn't even think about. Like where you're like, well, I'm not even certain on that thing anymore. And I didn't even know I was certain on it in the past because now I'm uncertain about it, right? And so it like it can create like kind of just this, I keep seeing like the little like, like an atom or something just continuously expanding, like this weird sci-fi kind of thing. But yeah.
That made me think of a fractal, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah, no. This is like something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that like our what are some of the challenges that someone might be facing in trying to make a decision if there is uncertainty?
Oh, well, it kind of feels like a shot in the dark, or just, I think it also kind of depends on your, maybe a relationship to like risk taking too, because some people are, it's like, I want a little bit more understanding of something, before making a decision.
Right.
And so it could be like that kind of like reaching for stuff, versus someone who's like, it doesn't matter. It's all uncertain anyway. I'm going to do this thing.
I feel like that's a description of you and then me.
Yeah, for sure. It kind of depends. Like, there's definitely a lot of things where I'm like, it doesn't actually matter. Like, nothing matters in uncertainty. It's all dark. Just go for it, Like, you might run into a wall, but then you'll know
that there's a wall.
I think it kind of, I think the weight of the uncertainty will also influence that. I'm thinking about it for myself too, but like if the uncertainty is like, it's kind of around me or it's in these different like little areas of my life, whatever, but it's, but I'm like, okay, but it feels like it's just a lot lighter on you versus like uncertainty where you're like, I literally cannot find one aspect of my life right now that feels like there's a solid amount of certainty there, right? Where it's like, okay, that's very heavy. And so you're just like, you know what, look, I'm just trying to make a change. I don't care. Like, make a decision, right?
Yeah.
And because it's then going for like a decision that's going to bring maybe some certainty. You're like, maybe this will be the decision that brings me 10% of certainty in life, right? Like, that's better than the 1% I have right now. And so I think that also depends on where you're at too, in that regard. And also, there's so many factors about that, like resource wise, like I think you'll also feel a little bit more confident if you have a more solid-ish support system going into things, but there's just so many factors that can play into this, but yeah, I don't know what the original question was.
You answered it though, because I asked about what are some of the challenges that people might face in being in uncertainty. And you can look at different areas of life, which is what I heard you say, is that, if there's things happening in your relationships that feel uncertain, if there are things that are happening like with your work or with your finances or with your housing, your environment, like, I don't know, maybe like pets, and that could also be uncertainty with, what I brought up earlier, which is like the social political climate as well, and how safe am I going to be in, or how safe am I right now, or how safe am I going to be a year from now, and that can also uproot your, and even just like thinking about it, being like, well, if I'm not going to be safe, then do I need to change my environment, and what is that going to mean for my relationships or my finances or my work, or and so I think a lot of the times with and then what you were sharing is like, yeah, sometimes it's like the uncertainty is like, well, this kind of impacts or is in every single area of my life. Or like uncertainty where it's just like, okay, pretty much everything else feels certain. Like I have a job, and like my job pays me well, so I don't really have to worry about finances, but my relationship feels really uncertain, or this aspect of my relationship feels uncertain, or maybe it's in your health too. So just like the challenge can be in multiple areas of life. So, and obviously this is the queer love podcast, and mostly we talk about your relationship with yourself, your relationship with significant others, and that can also include family and friends as well. So like being uncertain in relationships, and one of the things you brought up was support system, and that can also make everything feel extremely uncertain, as like a lot of things are a lot easier to navigate when you have a solid support system. Versus when you don't have a solid support system. And so, yeah, like, and in talking about like your relationships, like when things feel certain in your relationships, like just because something feels uncertain in the relationship doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have a support system. Like you could be going through something challenging or uncertain in the relationship, but still know that either, you're not leaving each other, or even if you do break up with this person, or they break up with you, you still have a solid support network. Like, even though, that would be devastating, maybe you don't want that to happen. But that wouldn't, you wouldn't be, this is not like the only person in your life that you can rely on. Right. So lots of different scenarios in which you might feel uncertain, and different levels of feeling uncertain as well. And when it comes to, and actually anything else that you want to say about that as far as like what it might look like, or painting the picture?
No, I think we've painted different scenarios. I'm sure you're thinking of other ones too. Go for it, but
no, pause there on that. But so some of the ways that you've brought up, like how to make decisions, are not necessarily how, we haven't really gotten to that part yet, but like how you might be thinking about it, or how you might be used to making decisions in these scenarios is like, feeling totally stopped or stuck, like being like, I don't know, I can't make this decision because so many things are uncertain right now, and so that feels really overwhelming. Or it might feel like, well, it's all uncertain anyway, so I choose this. Like, here we go. And I think that there are other ways to go about making decisions in these scenarios, other than just those two options. So how would you, what's another way that someone could go about making a decision in uncertain scenario?
I mean, I'm just thinking about it, from when you're feeling uncertain, or when things feel really uncertain, it's also putting you into that spot of, like being in survival mode, nervous system wise and everything. So it's like where it feels like you either make a decision or you don't, like or you freeze up, right? Which is what we talked about, right? And so it's like other ways can go, like maybe, I mean, there's so many different factors. I'm like, do you talk to people? Do you, maybe try part of the decision and see what happens? Sometimes there's like mini decisions that can get made within a larger decision. And I'm like, it's hard without specifics.
Do you want to create a specific scenario?
No.
Okay. Well, I think one of the things that you just said is, not making the decision on your own. So if you are in a, relationship, partnership, having a conversation about whatever the decision is, like not doing it on your own, not feeling like you have to be the one to come up with something that works or etc. And seeing how the other people feel about it. Maybe they actually don't feel as overwhelmed as you do. And so, gaining their opinion or gaining their insight would be really helpful. Also, if it is a decision about the partnership, that could be really helpful to get their input, because your relationship is not just dependent on you and your decision making. It is a group project.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if it's involving other people, I'm like, well, you should talk to them.
Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. And, I always love asking you, because you always go straight to the nervous system, which is always fantastic. And checking in with your nervous system and just recognizing, your patterns, your pattern of behavior. Like, I know that sometimes, or rather, in doing this work, I know that sometimes I can catastrophize things where, if I feel overwhelmed, then like my brain goes to worst case scenario. And since I know that about myself, it's becoming easier for me to recognize when I do that. Where it's like, actually, maybe I am making up how terrible it could be.
Yeah.
Or even how terrible it is. And so maybe I need to talk with somebody else to have me be more grounded. And talk this through and talk about other scenarios that might be possible. And it's always helpful for me too, because, the people that I talk to, like Lee, like Alec, like other people in my life, whenever I'm like, well, my brain did this, I'm actually thinking of like my friend Haley specifically. And I remember one time she was like, whoa, like her response to like my like catastrophizing of something was all like immediately calming, actually.
Yeah.
Because I could see the externalized reaction to like how extreme I went on it.
Right.
And so that immediately like reassured me that like, oh, okay, like that's actually in my head. That's actually not out here in real life. And so like that feedback can be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just like recognizing too that, I mean, just speaking to that point, when you're in a state of distress, nervous system wise, survival mode, all that, like it's really really hard, if not impossible, to be creative of like other possibilities, because it's like, why, it's like you're just focused on the threat, right? And so it's like, there's no creativity can't come in. It's like you can't afford creativity. And so it is helpful in those outside perspectives, or to be able to regulate yourself to the point where you're like, what else could happen, right? Like, for sure, that catastrophe is a possibility in the grand scheme of things. Totally. I mean, there's a lot of factors that would have to happen to make that go, but it's like, what else could happen, right?
What else is possible?
And to be able to get to that space of what else could happen means you're creating other options. And like that, you need to be in a more regulated space, or you need to have someone who's a little bit more regulated than you, or not being so affected by this specific scenario. Because then you're able to go, oh yeah, I mean, I guess that could also happen to, or this thing, or what if that happened? Well, yeah, that would change this completely. And, so it can, you can get very different perspectives. And it's also interesting with that stuff too, like as you're talking about the catastrophizing stuff, because I'm like, I mean, I know that's like I guess it's like a coaching or like therapy kind of question situation. You go with like a client where they're like, oh, but this could happen, and it's like, and what would happen then, or what would, and I'm like, I don't like that thing, but it sometimes helps people, you know, where some people, like, it helps them to go to the end and be like, and look, you're okay. I don't know, whatever the point is. And I was like, what's the point of those things? But it's like, that can help someone, like that can be grounding to be like, oh yeah, and even then, if we broke up and I lost my job and this and that, and it's like, oh yeah, but there's all these other things there or whatever. So it's like, it can have different effects, like these different strategies, you know. So also understanding like what works for you too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think, you know, step one in how to is being aware of how you respond to things, and like, you know, in this uncertainty, part of that awareness is like, well, what am I uncertain about? You know, what am I uncertain about? What is real here? I really like the question, you know, if, like, you know, and you, dear listener, dear watcher, think of, you know, your own, you know, personal scenario that you feel uncertain about right now. And I really like the question, like, if I were to follow you around with a video camera, or if I were to videotape this particular scenario, what would the video camera pick up? So it's not like your thoughts and your feelings about it, but it's like specifically like, oh, it would pick up, you know, my partner coming home and us having a conversation, and it would pick up, like, you know, you could actually take pictures of like your bank account or like your conversation with your boss, or, you know, things like that. Like, it's just like, okay, these are the actual things that are happening. These are the tangibles of it, and that can be really grounding. And not to say, you know, bring in your emotions and your thoughts and, you know, your thoughts and your feelings after that. I'm not saying like, you know, disregard, right. Like, that's not what I'm saying, but just step one inside of getting grounded in something, grounded in the reality, is just like being like, okay, like, it's happening at my house. The walls are brown. Like, that can be really, really grounding, to put yourself physically in what is happening and just name those physical aspects of it without anything else first. Yeah.
It's like grounding with the senses practice.
Grounding with the senses. Exactly. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So what would be next in helping make a decision when things are uncertain?
I am uncertain about where we're at in this decision-making process.
Awareness. I mean, I think that first part was like awareness. Yeah. Like, because you were awareness of, you know, your nervous system, and awareness of the situation, and awareness of the physicality of it.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about it for myself. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful. Yeah, I mean, because all that just like gave you more data to work with, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so it's.
Well, I think the other thing too is naming what the problem is for you, because that's also really grounding. Because if you're just like, oh my gosh, all of this stuff is overwhelming, and you're just talking about everything that's overwhelming, and also the language that we use is we usually say things like everything is overwhelming or all of this, you know, we're not specifically naming the thing. And since we are keeping it ambiguous, it's harder for our brain to help us through it, because we're not really talking about whatever it is. And so naming it would be my next step. Would be like, okay, what is the problem? So like using the sentence stem the problem for me is I don't know what to do in my relationship. And then that's still pretty broad. Mm-hmm. So maybe you ask yourself next, why is that a problem for you? Even though it seems obvious, it's like, well, isn't it obvious that that is a problem, that I don't know what to do next in my relationship? Sure, but again, the naming of it, like the actual forming of words around it, is the important thing here. So next step is, and that is a problem for me because it makes me feel ungrounded. It makes me feel uncertain. It makes me feel like they're gonna leave me. It makes me feel like I'm a bad partner. It makes me feel like it makes me so anxious that it's hard for me to operate in other areas of my life. It's distracting. It's actually taking away from other areas of my life. So when you verbalize it, when you actually form words around it, and you're actually able to say what the problem is, now you're turning that uncertainty into something a little bit more clear. Something that you can talk about, something that you can communicate about, and then it's like, okay, well, if I'm so anxious about it, first of all, why am I anxious? What is making me anxious about this? And again, putting words around that, it's making me anxious because my partner told me XYZ, and so now I feel like I am on that's why I feel uncertain. It's because I don't know what to do next in our relationship because I don't know what they want. Right? So it's like, I feel anxious because I don't know what my partner wants. And that's great to verbalize, because then it's like, oh, well then how can I find out what they want? Or if they still don't know what they want, then how can I help myself with my anxiety while my partner is figuring out, going through their own process of what they want. So in actually verbalizing the problem, you're giving yourself more certainty in what you can do, or what the next step is, or what's actually real in the scenario. There you go. Anything else you want to add to that?
No. I feel like my process is way confusing. Let's not even. I'm like this. I feel like it's more helpful.
Well, now
the masses.
Now I'm curious what your process is. Should we? Well, I'll go through mine. I'll go through this first, and then you can tell yours then.
Oh boy, I have to figure it out in a way that words can be put to it.
I feel like you're a lot more articulate than you think you are.
I'm not saying it's not gonna be articulate. It's just more of oh man, there's so many feely things in it, And so
yeah,
it's
but
all right, let me figure that out.
But that's what I feel like, my processes help people who are more bullet point,
No, yours is for sure. I'm you're the handbook.
Right. And but people are really helped by the way that you
I'm over here with blank journal, creative writing process.
Yeah, no. I literally witnessed on many occasions when we have coached together how the way you think about things is so incredibly helpful for people. So
no, yeah, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just wow, this is all right. We gotta take a tornado, put it into words.
Yeah. Oh man. And also, this is not the process that I use every single time. This is just I know that this is really helpful. So, anyways, well, I'll just keep going then. So naming the problem and why it is a problem for you. And then turning it back to you and recognizing your role in this and being really honest with yourself about what your role has been in whatever this scenario is. And you may have had multiple roles. Like you may have been the person who is curious. You may have been the person who's playing the victim. You may have been the person who's trying their best. You may have been the person who is being kind of a brat about it. You may have been the person who is trying to save everybody. Like, again, just like be really honest with yourself about who you have been being about this. You know, have you been scared? Have you been timid? Have you been assertive? Have you been loving? Have you been kind? And you probably have been like lots of different ways about this. You haven't just been one way about it. And just write all, I would suggest, I find it really helpful to write all of that down. Like, how have I been being about this?
Yeah.
This is actually something that I do.
Yeah, like I know you do this one.
Yeah, where it's just like, who have I been being about this? And then putting that next to another list, which is, who do I actually want to be about this? Like if I could make up, and sometimes it's helpful. I know that I've worked with people that have a hard time envisioning themselves being a different way. So sometimes it's helpful to envision like a person who you really admire or a person who you think would handle this situation really well, and be like, okay, you think this person would handle it really well. So how would they be being about it?
Right.
And then write that down. So instead of like the I wish I was being, but again, you could put it in the I wish I was being this way, but think about how they would be being, right? And then look at the ways that you would like to be being about it. And then ask yourself, what is one way from this list that I could start being, that I could like try on, that I could get curious about? So maybe one of the things you wrote down was compassionate. And it's just like, okay, great. If I were being compassionate, and again, maybe you were being compassionate before, but like this is kind of like next level. Like if I was being like next level compassionate here, and I'm just making this up, guys, like don't I feel like whenever I go through a process like this, they're like, well, I don't want to be compassionate, and I'm like, okay, this is an example. Pick the way that you would want to be being. I'm not telling you to be compassionate if you don't want to be. Right. I'm saying pick a way of being that you want to be. Right. And then try that on. Ask yourself the question, if I were being compassionate, if I were being peaceful, if I were being loving, if I were being bold, if I were being, maybe the way that you want to be is assertive, I don't know. If I were being that way, then what? How would I experience myself? What would I do? How would that change things? And then just start to try that on. And trying that on, that's the tangible that you can try on every single day, or whenever you're encountering this scenario that you feel uncertain about. Literally just ask yourself, okay, if I were being, compassionate right now, what would I do? What would I say? How would I be feeling? How could I move forward? And it's not perfect. Like you're not gonna like all of a sudden transcend into Buddha or something. But it is a guiding post to help you come from a more authentic place in yourself. Because take the case that like how you want to be being about something, how you wish you were being about something is authentic. That's an authentic part of you that's like, oh, I wish I could be this way, about it. Right. So that's one way. That is one way to navigate uncertainty and help you make decisions. Yeah. Okay, now I'm curious.
I don't know.
Oh,
As you were like talking about that, I just remembered like when we were freaking playing Bananagrams that day.
yeah.
And like remember when we were like, pulled out the 21 tiles or whatever. And I looked over to you and yours was like all organized and like it was like perfect little like 3x7 or whatever it was.
3x7 because that's 21.
Yeah, that must have been 3x7. Because it was perfect. And then I looked over at my, because it's like, you just grab the tiles. I look over at mine and mine's just like everywhere. Like, like it's like all the pieces are there and they are accessible, but it's like, there's not a necessarily a system organization to it. Because I'm like, it's all happening all at once, like that's what it feels like. So that's why I'm like, I'm like, yours is very like bullet point list. Mine feels like a cloud with all these like freaking neurons firing around.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's different parts of, that process that you just outlined where I'm like, but it's like different.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Well,
when make decisions with uncertainty, and that's all I'm like, okay, let's think of one. Like it's all happening all at once. I mean, I think for me it's like, okay, I feel uncertain about this. It's causing anxiety, blah, 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 blah. Let's try and get a little bit regulated, right? Like, I mean, I go like straight there. I'm just like, what would be regulating? And that could be, doing something like a grounding exercise. That could be me going like, let's focus on other things that I feel certain about, right? And that could be, I feel certain I have red shoes. Which honestly is a lot of it. A lot of the times with things where I'm like, okay, yep, I feel certain I had dinner. That's cool. Like it's like those kinds of things where I'm like, okay, there's some certainty here. And then that helps me to just like redirect. And then I start to look at it. Like, I think I just take the observer perspective, whereas, like, I think your outline that you just went through is, like, very personalized. Like, you're, like, imagining yourself the way, like, all that stuff doesn't work for me, right? So it's, like, I'm observing. And so it's, like, in the sense of, like, what's happening here, And then I'm, like, and I backtrack. I'm, like, when did this start? What caused this? And then I go, what happened in that gap of time? Because I'm just like looking at all the things, like what happened here, and like where did it kind of like kick off poorly, and then it's like, okay, what have I already done? Like, I tried this or that or the, it's kind of going back to like we talked about like last episode, where I'm like, okay, I already tried that. That didn't work. Okay, cool. Like, like it's like I know I feel uncertain. I know there's uncertainty about it. I know a decision needs to get made. Like I know all those things, but I'm just like, what else could be happening here? That I'm not seeing. So it's like again, it's like really, we are out there. I'm looking down at Earth. Like that is what is happening. So it's like it's very. It's depersonalized in that way. Yeah. And like I'm not thinking about the role or who I've been or who I want to be. Like none of that's happening because I think that's all. Maybe it's happening in a different sense, but like it's not so. Maybe that feels like compartmentalized to me, and that's where that's why I'm saying the tiles. They're everywhere, all happening, all at the same time, versus like these neat little boxes that I can go into and be like, let me look at this one, or but I know like that kind of structure really helps people, like to have the 3-column chart. Yeah, we want to be all that kind of stuff.
I literally did it on the plane when I came back a couple days ago. I was like journaling about things, and I literally did like a 3-page chart.
Yeah. I'm like, that doesn't work for me. And I've tried it, in different contexts, like not even just in relationship coaching and all that kind of stuff, like even but it's like you even look at like my note taking in like school and stuff. I'm like, there's a quote unquote structure to it that makes sense to me, right? Like it is like someone could look. I remember people would be like, can I look at your notes for, I wasn't there that day. I'm like, best of luck, friend. Like, this is not gonna make sense to you. It's like,
whereas that's so funny because mine were always like well, Elizabeth, I can like totally see how clear this all is, and blah 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 blah. Like,
yeah, and
it was even like it's legible, it's bullet pointed, it's indented. There's the whole.
Mine's like. There's stuff going on. There's stuff on the margins. I'm using abbreviations. There's like some things are underlined or circled, and I know what that all means, right? Like it's my secret code, and so I got straight A's. See, there you go, it worked. But it's like then that's where because it's like that's how it works for me, where it's just like it's all like I need to see it in a simultaneous way, because like breaking it down, I'm like, but I can't access it because I'm not accessing the other parts of it. I'm like, how can you separate it? It's not separate. And so like that way doesn't work. But that's why I'm like, that's where I take that broad view, looking down at Earth. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, okay, these are things happening. And, I usually I don't write about it a lot. Kind of depends on the severity of a situation where I'm like, maybe if I write it out, because like writing out just feels messier to me. Like it's like I have just added more mess to the mess pile.
That's so funny. Because for me, the writing feels like it's taking the mess away. It's like
some people really get that, right?
It's like all of the gunk in my head is now out of my head onto this paper, and that feels so good.
No, but that's the thing. Like that really helps a lot of people, right? Where it's like, or even when I'm talking to clients, they're like, within like a text-based session too, it's like, oh my god, that was just so nice to type out loud or whatever, and I'm like, yay. Versus like that will usually like I will only like write about it when it's near the end or already happened, and then I'm like, well, this is the shit that went on, but then it's like it's okay at that point. So it's like I'm not writing about it. I like there is just a lot of like I'm feeling into so many, like that's the thing is like I'm feeling into what has transpired. I'm feeling into different scenarios of like, what if this or what if that or what if I looked at it, like not even like looked at, like it's like what if I did that thing, and then I'm like, oh, I don't like that, I don't feel good, or like let me just try to. It is a lot of feeling based situations, and so like that's why like writing doesn't help because that's like very logical to me, and so it just kind of runs up against each other. And then I think it just in that whole process, what it feels like for me is like I am edging closer and closer to the cliffside. Sometimes it's going a lot faster. Sometimes it's going a lot slower. Like I'm able to take little baby steps. And sometimes it's like I feel the force of the wind pushing me towards the cliff, and I'm like, you better feel into things really quickly here because the decision time is coming. And so it's like I'm also feeling into the like the time frame that is also present too. And of course, that depends on different if it's a decision like that only involves me or involves another person, like, it's obviously different things will affect that, but it's really just like, I'm just like all of that happening all at once. And then it's, I think it's like, it gets me to the point of whenever that decision has to be made, whatever it is, it's like, that point where I'm like, well, I am at peace with it now because I have ran through so many things. I have felt through so many things. I have so many different experiences and realities through this process. That was like, well, I did the best that I could at that point. And so it's like a weird, like cutting off of the string, like the tension of the string, Yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's just a mess. Visuals and feelings. That's how I work it.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you sharing that. Well, I know that was helpful for someone.
No, for sure.
Because I've literally listened to you explain things in ways where it didn't make sense to me.
Right.
Because my brain doesn't work like that, you know, or like I don't process things in the same way. But then you've said things to people where I'm like, I don't know, I'm not totally following. But then someone who, you know, you're coaching, who we're on a call with, is like, oh my God, thank you for saying that. That makes so much, I feel so seen. I feel so I'm sure that there are people listening right now that are like, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. That makes me feel so seen and so heard. And like that's the way that it works for me too. You know, like,
all my little feelers.
Yeah, exactly. We all
the HSPs out there. You know?
Well, because we all process things differently. And you know, we've just given a couple different examples today, but I think that's, you know, it comes back to that awareness piece that we talked about at the very beginning, which is being aware of how you work and being aware of how you process and being aware of what, you know, what works best, or not even what works best, but just works for you in different scenarios, right? Like, I know things that work for me, Lee knows things that work for them, and that makes that uncertainty piece and decision-making piece like easier because we're more aware of how we work as individuals. Yeah.
And then
yes,
there's the good old hat question.
I love that question. Tell them the hat question.
Oh man, I mean, and the hat question helps when you have like a few clear options.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, so it kind of
you can't use it in every scenario.
No, you can't use it in everything, but you can use it in a lot of things. But the hat question, and I mean, very basic example, but also very important example is like, should I stay or should I go from this relationship? Where it's very clear, should I stay in this relationship? Should I leave this relationship, right? But those are the decisions we are feeling uncertain about. And so it's like, the question then is like, okay, yes, imagine that I am holding a hat. I have those two options in said hat on the little pieces of paper. And it's like, and I'm just putting my hand, I'm like, this is decision time. It's coming right now, you know, and I'm putting my hand in, and it's like, what slip of paper are you hoping that I pull out? Right? Because it's like, no, I'm grabbing. So like, and so it's just like,
and you're going to have to do it.
It's imminent. Right? And so if you're like, if you could, you know, make the magic happen to where my hand goes to the leaving the relationship, like, you know, it's just more to put like things in perspective for you. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, and again, and you know, when I have asked those questions in like coaching or with friends, like, it's not that is like, okay, therefore this, it's more of like, oh, interesting.
Right.
What do you think is having it be that decision right now? Right. And it's like, or what's influencing that? And then you're like, oh yeah, no, actually I need to leave this. Like, it's just like, I just needed that bit of pressure from someone else. Right. Because then it's different. And also recognizing too, it's like, you know, especially in that kind of scenario, when I'm like, oh yeah, and people are like, oh, I want to, you know, stay in this relationship or something. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, what is having you say that? And also recognizing that's today. Tomorrow I could pull that same hat out and you're like, you know what, actually I'm leaving. Like, I stayed and I actually recognized this doesn't work, right?
Right.
And so, you know, but that's the hat question just like helps in those more clear kind of choices that you have.
Right.
Right. It's like
it's like, it's either this or it's that, or it's these four things, or you know, whatever it is.
Whatever, like, amount of things is. And so, I mean, you can even use that to narrow things down too. Like, if there's 4 options, what are the 2 that you hope I pull out as like the, you know, the 2 main ones that you have to decide upon, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can use it in a different, in a variety of ways to help in that sense. But, you know.
I love it. I love the hat question. It's a good one.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You can also, like, I mean, because I've done that with where you can just, like, if you actually have the physical piece of paper and you're doing it with yourself, like you're not working with a coach or someone, and it's like freaking just put your hand in, pull it out, read whatever it is, and then like feel like
notice how you feel,
like
about
where
it.
You're like, oh, I have to do whatever I pull out, right? And it's like and you're just like, oh God, I don't want to do that. Right? And it's like, okay, why? Like, what's going on? What comes up for you? What are the feelings? What's the resistance? What's the reasons that's having you think that? And then you can feel into the other ones and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, make it real for yourself, right? No, what I pick, I have to do it, like, in this little container.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Role play.
All right, love. Anything else you want to share? All right, and if you are needing support, we would love to support you. You're going through a challenging time, you're going through a transition, you are uncertain, whatever it may be, please reach out to us. And the link to do that is below. We would love to talk with you and see if we are a good fit to support you in that.
We got hats.
All right. Well, we love you so much.
Love you. Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Queer Love Podcast. We would love to hear from you. Drop us a line on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter at Queer Love Relationships, or email us at queerloverelationships@gmail.com.
If you are interested in working with us, follow the Linktree link in the show notes. See if our offers resonate with you, and if they do, sign up with us or book a discovery session.
We are so grateful that you're here, listening, learning, and growing with us.
Until next time, keep loving.